Hi everyone, and welcome back to My Perfume Chronicles. It's so great to have you here with me today for this new episode. But before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss anything new. Okay, back to today's episode. If you've spent any time in the fragrance community, you've probably heard people talk about vintage perfumes. Collectors will search for them, enthusiasts will treasure them, and some even say they smell better than the perfumes we buy today. But what exactly is a vintage perfume? Is it simply an old bottle sitting on someone's vanity, or is there something more to the story? Today, I'd like to take you on a journey into the fascinating world of vintage perfume and explain why I believe every perfume lover should experience at least one. In the perfume world, there isn't one universal definition of the word vintage. Some collectors use age as a guideline, while others are more interested in whether a fragrance comes from an earlier formulation or a particular era. A perfume can become especially interesting to collectors when it represents an earlier formulation, created with ingredients, materials, and a production method that may have changed over time. A vintage perfume can be a little piece of chemical history shaped by changing regulations, ingredient availability, and the evolution of packaging. Over the decades, certain fragrance materials have been restricted or reformulated for safety and regulatory reasons. Oak moss, for example, has been subject to restriction, while some animal-derived materials are no longer used in the way that they once were. Sometimes those changes in ingredients can be remarkable. You can really notice the difference. The perfume may still be beautiful, but somehow it just doesn't smell the same. Now, if you're wondering how to tell whether a perfume is truly vintage, in many cases the bottle itself will give you the clue. Older fragrances often came in beautiful splash bottles with glass stoppers rather than the spray mechanisms we know today. And some of those were created by some of the best crystal houses like Baccarat or Lalique. The packaging can also tell you a lot. Older perfume boxes often had very simple ingredient lists, perhaps just alcohol, water, and fragrance. You won't see the long lists of individual fragrance allergens that we're accustomed to seeing today. And then there's the little details that can really help date a bottle. Older perfumes show their volume in fluid ounces rather than milliliters. You might also see an old-fashioned zip code on the box, but no barcode or the modern E-mark that you'll see on contemporary European packaging. And there's another reason vintage perfumes are so fascinating. Perfume formulas don't always remain exactly the same over the decades. Today, perfume houses may adjust a fragrance because of changes in ingredient availability or rising costs, or supplier changes, safety regulations, or even a change in ownership. And when that happens, the perfume can smell totally different. That's why a vintage bottle of a classic fragrance may smell richer, denser, or more complex than the version that you find on a department store counter today. It even lasts longer on the skin. Of course, that doesn't mean every vintage perfume is automatically better, but it does mean that when you discover an original or an older formulation of a beloved perfume, you may be experiencing something that simply doesn't exist in quite the same way anymore. A vintage perfume is more than an old fragrance. It's a time capsule, really, and when you wear one, you're stepping into another era. Many of the legendary master perfumers from the past who shaped the industry today approached fragrance almost like composers writing music. Every note had a purpose, and they weren't creating a perfume for just one season. They were creating fragrances for generations to come. If you're curious about exploring vintage perfumes, you don't have to begin by searching for rare collector bottles. Many beloved classics are still available today and offer a wonderful introduction to the world of vintage fragrance. Here are 10 that I think are absolutely worth discovering. Youth Dew by Estee Lauder, Calèche by Hermès, 2 from Guerlain Mitsouko, and also L'Heure Bleue, which has just been reformulated and will be launched in September of 2026. The original is powdery and spicy. Queen Elizabeth, this was her favorite. But the new one is going to be lighter naturally and have a more modern approach. Let's see how it's received. Then also Arpège by Lanvin, Femme by Rochas, Chanel No. 5, Miss Dior Originale, Joy by Jean Patou, and Rive Gauche by Yves Saint Laurent. And even if you're not experiencing the original vintage formulation, these perfumes still carry the spirit and the legacy of their legendary creations. So if you've never experienced a vintage perfume, I hope you'll give one a try. You might discover not only a new beautiful fragrance, but a deeper appreciation for the remarkable history behind the perfumes that we love today. If you loved my video today, check out these other ones that focus on vintage perfumes. Classic French Perfume, Vintage is the New Modern, Why Retro Perfumes Are Back, and Paris 1948, Fracas, the legendary bombshell perfume. Thanks so much for joining me today on My Perfume Chronicles. I'd love to know, have you ever worn a vintage perfume, or is there one you've always wanted to try? Be sure to hit the like and subscribe button so you don't miss anything new, and it really helps my channel grow so we can keep talking about amazing perfumes. Until next time, take care of yourself.